there is a bit of an exodus from New England, as when Nate Solder is now a member of the New York Giants. We've seen other Patriots leave New England as well. But I saw this story and I thought it was fascinating, and I kind of get it. You know, in order to succeed in business, and especially in the business of sports, there's one thing that you have to have. Like, look, I'm okay with disagreement. I'm okay with people challenging. I think anybody who leads, whether it's their radio show or TV show, or you're leading a company or you're leading a team, you're okay with disagreement, with a dissenting opinion. On the other hand, when that dissenting opinion becomes one that is shared by too many, shared by more than one, by the dissenter, they become somebody who's pulling in a different direction. I've heard coaches talk about this in football. Texas A&M signed Jimbo Fisher, right, to a 10-year, $75 million deal. And one of the things he said when he took over the job was that he alluded to the administration at Florida State not pulling in the same direction. He's like, hey, the thing about Texas A&M is everyone's pulling in the same direction. And one of the reasons that Bill Belichick has been able to be so successful, to the tune of 8 Super Bowls, he's the most successful and esteemed pro coach in the history of modern American sports, is because he gets guys to take less money. It's because he's not afraid to jettison players that are past their prime and that are coming up on a contract year. This from Mike Girardi, who is, of course, a Boston reporter, someone who knows is watching our show tonight. Source says Bill Belichick is making players miserable. And yes, a lot of this ties back to Alex Guerrero. Think about this quote from Jimbo Fisher. You can have Vince Lombardi, Tom Landry, Chuck Noll. You can have the greatest coaches in the world. But if your administration doesn't see things the way that you see things and allow you to do things that way, nothing can be achieved. That's Jimbo Fisher, of course, won a national championship as an offensive coordinator at LSU and won one as a head coach at Florida State. He's now the new head coach at Texas A&M. Remember, Alex Guerrero is Brady's trainer. There's been a storyline for the Patriots over the last several months. Reports have said that there's a discord between Belichick and the Pats, and that some of the players choose Guerrero over the team. Players like Brady, players like Gronk prefer to train, work out, seek treatment from Guerrero, while the team would rather see their players do things with the team. Right? This report says that Pats players like Gronk and Brady are miserable. That they don't feel that Bill Belichick appreciates the sacrifice they put in order to put their bodies on the line. And when I read this, I know why Bill Belichick is attempting to and has essentially cut as many ties as he can with Alex Guerrero. Look, he's got to keep Guerrero at arm's distance. He absolutely does, because he's still a trainer for Tom Brady, and Brady is his quarterback. But if you want to know why he pulled his sideline pass, if you want to know why he changed the routine and eliminated the on-field office and giving him carte blanche, this is the reason why. It's not that Guerrero's medical techniques aren't ahead of the curve. It's not that what he's saying in terms of taking care of the body and maybe Bill Belichick not appreciating players' bodies isn't accurate. Okay? Anybody who's a physical therapist, especially a guy who's essentially an advocate for players, is going to react as such. But the reason Bill Belichick had to cut ties is because this guy is driving a wedge between the players and the coach. It's that simple. He is not pulling in the same direction. And look, he is allowed to act as he wants to act, to treat his players as he wants to treat them, to tell them whatever he wants to tell them. But if he wants to be associated with the Patriots, you have to be pulling in the same direction, and he's clearly not. And while Tom Brady can be slightly influenced mentally, Rob Gronkowski and others can be influenced far more easily because they're a little bit more simple-minded. They don't understand the complexities of the relationship. It's a lot like the Jedi mind trick. It doesn't work on everybody, okay? And while this doesn't work on everybody, but if it works on one player and it's one player questioning Belichick and Belichick's methods, that's too many. Because the Patriots, by their own estimation, are already going to be at a talent disadvantage because they're choosing character over talent. Belichick, if you've read anything about who he wants to surround himself, I want guys that want to be coached. I don't care about having the greatest players on earth. They look and laugh at the Pittsburgh Steelers with Antonio Brown and you know, doing the Facebook thing in the locker room. And having a super talented running back, a position to which they seem to be able to find anyone they want off the street to fill. And instead, the Steelers are franchise tagging their running back because they can't agree to a long-term deal. They laugh at that. That's not the Patriot way. Matter of fact, it wasn't the Steeler way for a long time, and the Steelers are kind of caught between who they want to be and who they actually are. But when I read this about Alex Guerrero, and for a long time, people have asked this question, like, how could you run a guy off who had such a great relationship with Tom Brady, who was so close to so many of the players? This is why. Sure, players are miserable. Everybody's miserable. Like, that's the sport. Most people are miserable in their job. Most workers who are compensated far less than that of pro football players are miserable with the day-to-day grind of every day checking in and doing the same thing. The difference here is you can either act as an advocate for the team and pulling in the right direction and stitch them up and stretch them up and kick them back out there in the football field and say, hey, we're going to do better. Don't worry about Coach B. He's in it for the right reasons. Or you can be the guy that says, I know you're miserable. The old man's lost it. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't appreciate you. Look, we have this in our lives with our spouses, okay? If your spouse, if you have a really good job and you come home, anybody can bitch and moan to their wife or to their husband. Anybody can, right? But if their wife is telling, like, go in and tell that guy to go blank himself, right? That's going to get you fired. She's not helping. You can say he might not appreciate you, but it's a really good job. It's a really good company. It's going to get better. That's the kind of person you need supporting you. And Alex Guerrero is not supporting the team. And so if you want to know, it's not surprising to me at all that players are miserable. It's not surprising to me at all that they think their coach doesn't get them. That happens in every sport. Happens in baseball, happens in basketball, happens in football. Not surprising. But if you want to know why Alex Guerrero got run off from the Patriots, this is why. Because you can pull in the same direction or an opposite direction. And every football coach will tell you, the second you have somebody pulling the opposite direction, the entire stagecoach gets slowed down. There's this famous speech Mack Brown gives. Mack Brown, of course, longtime coach at Texas, won at North Carolina, won at Texas, won a national championship, in one of the great championship games we've ever seen played down the street at the Rose Bowl. But Mack Brown, like, look, when he was managing Texas, it's really more of a manager than a coach. You got the Texas high school football coaches that he always gives thanks to, right? You have all the parents that they love, all the parents of the Texas players and the alums of the University of Texas. Okay? And you have the former players. Like, you have all of these different factions that have to feel like they are loved by Mack Brown and by the football program, as well as all the talented players we have here at the University of Texas.
Is that a Texas accent?
No, that's a Mack Brown imitation.
Oh, that's Mack Brown.
That's
okay.
Mack Brown.
Got it.
But Mack would, if you've ever seen him speak to other coaches, he'll go around the room and he'd start his speech by saying, Coach, how was your season? Coach, how was your season? And one coach would say, Coach, we had a great year, won our league. Another coach would say, Coach, we had a terrible year. You know, we had injuries, probably didn't run the right offense. You know, parents were upset. He's talking to high school coaches. And every coach who said something negative about their program, he'd go around and say, you're fired, you're fired, you're fired, you're effing fired. And they'd say, you want to know what? He said, you want to know why? Because when you're running a program, the second you have anyone saying something inside your program, saying something to somebody outside the program negative about it, you know that people aren't all pulling in the same direction. and you're allowing the thought of negativity that there's not a happy ending in sight. Look, this is not just a football thing. This is a business thing. This is a basketball thing. This is a baseball thing. This is a life thing.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.